Okay, so today we're going to do our cranium views. For the cranium for practicum, it's going to be a Townes view, it's going to be the Caldwell view, and then the lateral view. I will also show you guys the PA skull and the SMV, but those will not be on the practicum, okay? So for all of these views, we're using a 40-inch SID and we're using a 10x12 image receptor. For the Townes and the Caldwell, we're going to go lengthwise because our face is longer than it is wide. But when we do the lateral for the cranium, we're going to go crosswise instead of lengthwise. Okay, so crosswise for the lateral, lengthwise for the other two. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and put my little thing in here. It's going to go at the 12-inch line initially for that lengthwise and get it put in here. So for the skull views in this room, at least, we have to have our patient sit on a stool because what is our angle for a Townes view? 30 degrees caudal. So if I angle my tube 30 degrees, remember with this tube you have to give it its little knock knock to make sure it's only at 30. If I bring this all the way up, that's almost as high as my tube goes. Hold on. Nobody is that short unless we have a child, right? So our patient's going to sit on a stool, okay? I'm going to open this to be 10 side to side and 12 top to bottom on that 40-inch line. And I'm going to have a patient, somebody besides Isaiah, come on. It's always Isaiah. Oh, thanks, Taya. All right, so when my patient sit there with her back against the board. For all of our skull stuff, we wanna make sure we're using gloves. I don't like my face touched with people's hands, and I also don't like touching other people's faces with my hands. So, gloves for all skull stuff, okay? So, we take glasses off, please. What we're going to do is we're going to have our patient tuck their chin because we want the OML perpendicular to the image receptor. So essentially we're having our patient give themselves a double chin. So we want them to tuck their chin down and back, butt sitting up straight. There you go, till her OML is perpendicular. If you have a patient who has spine issues and they're not able to do that, we can get the IOML perpendicular and use a 37-degree angle. So, and that's for practicum. If your patient can't tuck the chin until the OML is perpendicular, you'll have to change your angle to the 37, okay? I suspect that everyone in here will be able to do the OML though, all right? So, her chin is tucked, her OML is perpendicular to the image receptor. I'm gonna have her sit up as straight as possible though, while keeping her chin tucked, good. And then my centering point, this is gonna come down into your eyes, is going to be 2.5 inches above the glabella, so at about the hairline, okay? I'm gonna have her come a hair that way so that we're centered on her face. Make sure that you pay attention to the actual centering of the face, not necessarily where the part of the hair is, okay? And then you're also tilted a little bit, so right about there. Okay, so I'm centered on her face. I'm going to line my bucky up. So this is gonna come down behind you. Perfect. Make sure we're lining up to the image receptor. So remember that our image receptor, because of the steep angle, is gonna be about 1 inch higher than the bucky itself, okay? So the bucky line is here, but my image receptor is here on the silver handle. So she's like that, her OML is perpendicular. I'm gonna throw a right marker up here. Collimation, I'm gonna just leave it open. If I collimate top to bottom, I'll clip the top of her head. So just like that. I'm gonna have my patient hold her breath. I can give her a lead shield to hold over her abdomen or roll the rolling shield in front. Honestly, in the real world, when we do that, the shielding is really not shielding from a whole lot because our tube is up here and we're coming down to our patient. So the shielding is more to make the patient feel better than actually helping with shielding or scatter reduction, okay? So that's the Townes. 30 degrees downtown, so a 30-degree caudal angle, OML perpendicular, and centering 2.5 inches above the glabella, so at about the hairline, okay? My second view, my patient's gonna turn around on her stool and face the board. And I'm going to go down to a 15-degree angle because we turned around to go to Mr. Caldwell's house. And we're going 15 degrees caudal. And we still want the OML perpendicular to the image receptor. So to achieve this for this one, I'm gonna have her put her nose and forehead to the board, okay? Nose and forehead to the board gets that OML nice and perpendicular. And now I'm centering to come out her nasion, right? So if you'll kind of follow your laser around the front and look at her and see if you're lined up with the nasion or not, that will be helpful for you, okay? So hold on, I gotta bring this up. So I'm right there, nose and forehead to the board. Make sure I'm centered in the middle of her head and she's not tilted or turned or rotated. And now I stick a left marker in the upper corner. You can use a right marker too, but just make sure you're marking the correct side of our patient, okay? And I have her hold her breath, and that's a Caldwell view. So the holding of the breath in these pictures is just to eliminate motion, okay? So 15 degrees downtown, centering on the back of the skull in order to exit the nasion. Left marker, that's my Caldwell, okay? Have my patient relax for just a second. I'm gonna pull this out. Try to remember to do this before you get the patient in the lateral position because it's very loud if their ear's against that bucky and you pull it out. So, come up to 10 right there and get this in here crosswise. And now I'm going to take my angle off completely, so no angle for the lateral. And I'm going to change to be 10 side to side, or 10 top to bottom, 12 side to side, okay? So bring this down. And I like to tell my patients, so they're mostly going to stay facing the board, like we're gonna have their chest kind of against it, but then they're gonna turn their head so that their ear is against the image receptor, okay? So like you're listening through the wall. So perfect, just like that. Now, it's important here that we get in front of our patient and make sure that they're not tilted. So right now she's tilted a little too far that way, so bring your, there we go. Make sure when you're looking straight ahead that she's not tilted, that her eyes or her interpupillary line is straight, and then that she's not rotated in or out either, okay? So she's good right there. And I'm going to center 2 inches above the EAM. Okay, so right about there. I'm gonna come forward from you just a hair. Ooh, too much. Right there. And I gotta bring this up. Hold on, sorry. All right, so lining up. She's good. I made sure, I think you're tilted again. Bring your chin this way. There you go. This is a really uncomfortable position for our patient. But 2 inches above the EAM, she's not tilted. Hold your breath. That's the lateral skull. Okay? The important part here is if 2 inches above the EAM is too high and say my light field looks like this because of the shape of my patient's head, we would compensate. We're going to come down at that point and be closer to the EAM in order to make sure we're not clipping the occipital bone there in the bottom. Does that make sense? Okay, good. So those are your 3 views for practicum. Really quickly, I will go ahead and show you guys the PA skull. So I'm gonna have her face the board. I'm not gonna change my image receptor, it's fine. It should go lengthwise, but just pretend I did that, okay? So we're gonna go back to 10 side to side and 12 top to bottom. She's going to put her nose and forehead to the board like we did before. And we're going to exit the nasion like we did before. So essentially nothing is going to change for this compared to the Caldwell other than we're not angling. I'm gonna bring it up. Sorry. Don't let me take your nose with me. Okay, so exiting the nasion, no angle, and 10 by 12, okay? Collimation on this one, it looks like I can collimate a little bit now that I don't have the angle. Okay? Just make sure if you are gonna collimate that you're not clipping the bottom of the occipital.
It doesn't matter if you clip like the mandible, right?
Mandible doesn't matter because it's cranium. So we're just looking at the cranium itself. If we clip the bottom portion of the face, that's okay. As long as we don't clip the occipital itself, okay? And then the last view I'm gonna show you guys is the SMV. So this one, she's gonna turn around and face the tube. And we're going to bring the head all the way back till the OML is parallel to the image receptor. So all the way back till the top of your head's against the IR. There you go, you okay?
Yeah.
Okay, you can go a little more. There you go. Really break your neck. And then we're centering 1.5 inches below the mental point. So we just right here, right there. And then I would line this up. I'm not going to do it because I don't want to knock her off the stool here. But I'm going to throw a right marker up there. Actually, I am going to move it. You okay? Okay, there you go. So again, OML perpendicular to the floor. Now, you may say, well, you can collimate because we're seeing all of her throat. But that occipital is in line with this front anterior portion of her throat. So if I were to collimate, I would clip, okay? So we want to just leave it open just like that. So that's SMV. So these ones, you can relax. These ones are not on the practicum, but you will see them and do them in clinic. So for practicum, it is the Towns, the Caldwell, and the lateral. Okay? Questions, comments, concerns? Cool.